After we decide to hit the road, Conrad asks what the US government is doing in New Vegas. I explained that in the past 50 years, the Enclave has lost a lot of power throughout the US. Factions like the NCR and Brotherhood were acidic and terroristic. On one hand, you had the NCR who attempted to steal the rightful place of the Enclave. Then you had the Brotherhood of Steel who would kill you and your family if you had tech they wanted. This seemed like bullshit, right? But unlike the edge masters of the roleplay, Conrad was really doing well at roleplaying as a vault dweller, someone who didn't know shit about the real world. We spent that day marching south. Every so often a mod would throw some rad scorpions at us, but it was relatively quiet until we got to Camp Golf. We were a good ways from a perfect eyesight roll, but Conrad got a good enough perception roll so that he could see figures in NCR armor and Brotherhood of Steel armor. I didn't know in character what was happening, but I did go ahead and read some other posts. Apparently some boss edgelords got together and thought they'd attack Camp Golf. I would think that this is good for them, getting out of their one-man bunkers and all. But they were having a monologue war with the NCR, literally just going back and forth about who was morally right or wrong. Edge kids were being edgy and we had a seat to the show. Here's where it gets spicy. One of the elite ranger snipers spots us hiding behind a broken car a few hundred miles away. Doesn't perception roll, doesn't get out binoculars, doesn't even use the scope on his rifle. Just yells out in the next post, "Hey, I see some people over there." At this point I'm healed up to full health. Conrad is using the dead ranger's rifle and pistol. Richardson is hungry, and Igor is retarded. Me and Conrad are only equipped enough to take down maybe 2 players. Richardson can probably kill someone in power armor before being killed himself. And Igor may be able to avoid friendly fire. We don't stand a chance against 4 players, let alone a dozen boss and NCR edgelords. Speed roll. 16. One issue in this roll. We realize that Igor is slow as fuck. Oh no, Jeff. Thankfully, the other players didn't sprint at us, but they began steady walk towards us. We had maybe 5 minutes until they got to our location. We PM back and forth while the edgelords get their posts in. We have an idea to surpass the Metal Gear. Our turn to post and shit gets real. I quickly take the higher functioning parts out of Igor so that he no longer has the function of walking or rotating. I take off his non-working arm, and by the time I get done salvaging parts off of him, at Mach speeds they've cut the distance between us in half. Hurry the fuck up, Peter. Should I start shooting at them? No, what the fuck, those rangers are trained marksmen. Roll for an action. Critical success. After all is said and done, I give some last words to Igor. Love you, little buddy. For the Enclave. For the Enclave, sir. Me, Conrad, and Richardson run as fast as our 16 speed roll will take us. Behind us, we can hear the NCR and boss yelling for us to stop. Yeah, sure. 2 groups of mortal enemies would tell us to stop instead of killing each other. We get away pretty quickly because of Igor's sacrifice. We hear him blasting his little laser up until we hear a shot ring out and end his little robotic life. Brings me to tears knowing that he sacrificed himself to save us. But his sacrifice was not in vain. You see, my character is a robotics engineer. I repair, put together, modified, and jury-rigged robots. Igor would not go out as just a one-armed protectron. The corner kids didn't roll very well for speed, and when they did, the GM said we were already too far away. especially since Igor slowed them down. So after they killed Igor, or so they thought, they sticked around to see if we left anything behind. They didn't find anything except for a few bolts I dropped while salvaging Igor and our footprints. They kept on talking about how that was weird of us to run away. One of the rules in the roleplay was not to avoid RP unless you had a reason. They thought they were being cute by throwing some shade at us. It wasn't until Igor said, "For the Enclave," that they all, in unison, shit their pants. What happens when an energy pack is overloaded? Well, you have something like a grenade, but you need shrapnel to do any real damage. Well, guess what the energy pack was overloading inside of? A protectron that was now rendered useless due to them shooting it. What happens to a military-grade protectron when it's rendered useless? It clears its memory and self-destructs its CPU. Guess who connected the CPU to the overloaded energy pack? This guy. The energy pack that I used as a battery for Igor explodes after letting them know who his masters were. Let's just say the entirety of Igor's body was shrapnel, and it fucked them up. They all have to roll to see how hurt they are. Mods take sides. Most got off scot-free. A few hurt, but 2 rolled a 19 and 20. We just killed 2 heavily armed NCR troopers with a Protectron bomb. Somebody was pissed. Somebody bitched to the mods. We run for about an hour, slowing down into a jog every so often. In our panic, we ran in a random direction. It wasn't until I checked my Pip-Boy, asked the GM where we had run off to, that I realized that we had run so far west that we were only a few miles south of the strip. We were tired, thirsty, and Richardson was hungry. I'm pretty sure we spent about 2 hours just trying to regain our energy after running so much. After regaining enough energy to walk, we began marching to west. If we could get to the mountains and keep them on left or right, we could run and hide if shit got serious. The trek would take a few days, but since Igor had been killed and those corner kids chased us, we had no other choice except to keep moving. It was nearing the end of the day when we started seeing smoke coming from a few miles west. In most situations, I wouldn't dare approach smoke, meaning raiders possibly, but I was sure if they were raiders, we could deal with them, especially with a Deathclaw on our side. We get close to the smoke when we realize it's not raiders. The smoke was coming from 5 different crucifixions, all burning their captives. It was our friends from the Legion. Out of fucking nowhere, one of the Centurions pops up. "Good to see you, friend. Do you like what we've done with the degenerates?" Apparently he had a 16 sneak roll. Fucking sneaky bastard.